What's good, y'all? Doctor's back. Third installment of the 50-50, along with just covering the day in sports from a daily fantasy and betting perspective. Another successful day yesterday in that, as you see if I posted, that I was successful in a double up again. And hit one of the lotto tickets. It was like plus nine something. Until I get a better name for them, I'm just going to call lotto tickets. Obviously, it's not winning the lottery, but just things that aren't as probable as the safe bets that we put out there. Um, and Simons was a little cold last night from three, got two instead of three. It would have been a much better night had he got to three. But again, I think I'm excited that for myself, just kind of being in the right neighborhoods. A leg off here and there, that's always going to happen, no matter if you do four legs, five legs, 22 legs. No matter what, you see people, it's always one leg short. So, but keep putting the work in, keep trying to be in the right neighborhoods. That's all you can really do is just focus on the probabilities. Today it's easy because you got one NBA game and you got one NFL game, so that's what I'll focus on. Um, there's an opportunity to double up in both. And then obviously areas you can focus on from what I would call a lottery perspective. And again, always bet responsibly. Um, these are just opinions. Obviously, you should always go with your instincts and do what you think is the right thing to do for yourself, um, and put your own spin on it. So first, we'll start with the NFL. We got the Bills traveling to New England. Interdivision game, always going to be emotional. It's prime time. Um, should be an interesting watch. Not a very high total. Um, I'm really big on Buffalo as a team overall. Defensively, they're a little scary right now. They've got some injuries. Von Miller out for a while. Some of the people in the secondary are questionable. So those are things to pay attention to. Um, so what I focused on first when I looked at the props, again, you guys know I try to be safe with the safe bet, right? Doubling up. And again, you can double up with any amount. You want to put 1,000, turn it to two. I try to focus on continuing to be in the positive, be in the green, be in the black, however you want to look at it. So the first thing that I feel good about is taking Buffalo plus 10.5. Again, I don't track the what it is individually. I just find the mesh that when it lands there at plus, this is plus 106 today. I feel good about these things happening cumulatively. So we have four things that we're focusing on. So it's kind of a little easier today to put things together, to get there. So that, I mean, I don't see New England, even if they have a chance to win the game by winning by more than 10 points. Buffalo is still an explosive offense. And I think no matter what, obviously I think they win the game. And so, in a lot of the lottery tickets or what have you, I'll be aggressive on the Buffalo side. But I think safely you can get away with 10.5, and you can come down off of that to your comfort level. But that's where I landed at today. Then I went to, with Damian Harris being out as the running back for New England, it really is the Ramondre Stevenson show. In the past couple of weeks, with Harris being in the mix, it hasn't been as much Ramondre from the rushing perspective. He's been getting a lot of work in the passing game. I think they're going to want to really focus on the run today. So I put him at 50 yards as a pretty safe, and obviously it's going to be important early on for him to be getting rushing yards. In the event that Buffalo starts to pull away, then obviously that becomes a harder thing to make. But I think New England does enough early. He's talented enough where 40 to 50 yards is a fairly safe presumption that you can make. I landed at 50 just to get everything else that I wanted. These two teams, just based on what's going on, the next thing I have, I'm really looking at the over under on this one, and I don't see it being super high scoring. It doesn't look like there's really any weather, but it's cold, and it's just one of those things where New England isn't a team that just tends to put up a lot of points. So under 63.5 seems pretty safe. I don't, I mean, the score could be 34 to 27, and you still get there. And I would take the under on both of those in terms of individual game totals. So I like under 63.5. And again, you can vary that any way that you want, you know, north or south, but that's kind of where I landed. And lastly, Josh Allen to pass for 200 yards. Those four things get you a plus 106. I feel good about those things. That's the neighborhood I want to be in. I know Jacoby Myers is questionable, so that's something to watch in your betting tickets. Um, I think either way, a couple things that could be sneaky, especially if the Buffalo secondary isn't where it needs to be. Nelson Aguilar getting deep, especially if you're doing like DFS single game, he'll be in one or he'll be in a couple of mine as maybe even like an MVP or something. Same thing with Devontae Parker. He's somebody that I'll be targeting in some of these single game things. I think he has an opportunity, maybe potentially, to be, even with Myers in the lineup, but even more so without it. But even with Myers, I think, Parker's make his. I think there's a growing relationship there with Jones and him. He makes a lot of difficult catches. He has a history. Yes, he can't stay healthy, so hopefully he can stay healthy after some good Thanksgiving turkey. On the Buffalo side, all the pieces there, any one of them could go off, right? Diggs finally got there. I know a lot of people might feel good and safe with Diggs, but anybody who played him on Thanksgiving knows that, we're lucky we got to 40 yards. And it's funny because he ended with like, almost 80 or whatever, but it was a sweat there for a while, sitting at 4 catches for like 20 some odd yards. And he's done that a couple times. Ultimately, he should still get there. And again, he'll be at a lot of those like tournament type, lottery type tickets. McKenzie was just always open, and I think that's going to be a kind of a thing to pay attention to, continue to look at. And this could be a Gabe Davis game. Obviously he tends to kind of step up in certain situations. This could be one of them. Again, he's never somebody that I feel safe about ever, but he's definitely somebody with an amazing ceiling, and always have to kind of focus on a little bit. And the same thing with Dawson Knox. Not big on Singletary today. Um, More so than I would be in other weeks. I've liked him over the last couple of weeks. I'm a little less in love with him today, but I mean, obviously, couldn't talk you off of him. And then even the New England kicker, I think, is busy today. Provided that there's not a lot of wind, I think that they'll have drives where they can move the ball, but maybe not get in the end zone. So that's really it for me on the Buffalo New England game. In the NBA, we have Detroit at home against the Mavericks. So Doncic is coming to town. So when you're focusing on, doubling up there, in one game it's a lot harder than when you have access to a lot of different games. You can go in a lot of different directions. So I still, like I said, this is something that I've done a lot this year. Especially on mid to small slates, is just try to double up each game. And most nights, you can go, 4 out of 5, 5 out of 6, successful. Every once in a while, there's, like I said, a goofy injury or something that will take you out of the mix. And I'm trying to find where that is for me right now. Okay. So when it comes to basketball, I don't know why it's not compartmentalizing for me. But the first thing I did, um, I guess I erased a couple of them, but I know what they are. So again, just overall breakdown of the game. Again, until Detroit gets Cade Cunningham back, I don't really like them to win a lot of games, let alone beat teams by a lot. So again, I went back to the well with Mavericks plus 8.5. I don't think the Mavericks are a juggernaut, and just based off memory and when I'm paying attention to them, they seem to play a lot of close games, whether they come back and win them or just find a way to lose them at the end. But I think 8.5 against a undermanned Pistons teams, I feel good about, especially with limited options on a slate like today. Luca for 25 points. They don't have all the alt bets off, but just in the range I want to be in, it's probably going to be somewhere around Luca at 25. And that's a fairly safe thing. Like, he could always have that off. I also threw one 3-pointer in there for him. I know he shoots a lot, but he doesn't always have a great percentage. And I'm not even sure why it erased. So I'm just actually going to put this together while I'm on here with you guys. So, but Luca had 1-3 and 25 points. And then Spencer Dinwiddie at 10 points. Again, he used to play for the Pistons, and now it's all kind of disappeared. That's why I went away. So there must be some news. Let me just kind of see. Again, I try to do this too, where it's early enough to, if people want to kind of go along for the ride with me, get some feedback or what have you. So there's time for people to kind of incorporate into their process and whatnot. Obviously the challenge behind that, especially me being in the Eastern time zone, news isn't always out there. It's almost 6 here, so I like to have things out and done by 6. Uh, Christian Wood is available Thursday, so that only makes me even more like Dallas with points. You could even lower that. Again, I just kind of stood at 8.5 as my target entry. But on FanDuel right now, there are no, the lines kind of disappeared, or yeah. I don't, again, most of you who did, if you haven't watched, I don't let Vegas dictate my odds completely. Like I try to build my own odds with things that are more probable than not. So, you know, but if there is a line or something like you guys may have seen last night, Kyrie Irving at 25 points was plus. I felt good about that. So just going in and individually betting on that, so that way if it hits, you make money. We can't live off parlays, but also know that when there's a line being set, it's designed to get money on both sides of the fence. So it's like it's one of those things where I try to kind of really gear things to my advantage. Sometimes that may require two, three, or four things, but if they're all in my advantage, then I feel it's worked out for me. I don't know that it's a religion or anything like that, but like depending on what kind of odds you're getting, if you like, there was a night where um, you know, I forgot who it was, like Nurkic, right? At 14 points and 8 rebounds, which I felt good about. It was plus 102. So, it's not one thing, but it's one player, which is kind of similar to me. So I look at stuff like that. Sometimes you don't always get the odds, you got to add things, but that's kind of where I'm at with that. So, again, I can't put it together, but I did earlier, and I don't know why it disappeared. But I think it's because they pulled, like right now, you can't. Let me just double check. Yeah, you can't bet on anything in that game, so I don't know what happened. But I had Luca 25, a 3-pointer. I had Dinwiddie at 10 points. I had the Mavs plus 8.5. And then there was one thing leading. Oh, yeah, Bogdanovich at home tends to be pretty good with the three ball. Just kind of putting some look at that right now. But again, I don't necessarily, I like him more like, for 3, 4, 5 and more of a tournament style. But him hitting one in most any building is a pretty safe assumption. I'm trying to think of the last time he played and did hit one. There was a game in New York. He missed one, but outside of that, it's pretty. It's pretty. He's actually hit one in the games that he's played in. Exactly one. 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like 4 straight times. No, 3 straight times, and then there's some ones. Yeah, that's 4. 2, 3, 1, 3, 3, 3, 3. So I don't like 3-pointers as my safety, but again, with a guy like that, who that's his like Steph Curry, it's his DNA, it's what he does, it's his first priority versus driving. That's as safe as you're going to get on this slate. And then you needed one other thing to really make it like a plus 100 or in that neighborhood, maybe like a minus 102. And it wasn't out yet, a lot of the Detroit props, but the ones that were, Bagley getting 4 rebounds, or Killian Hayes maybe 4 assists. Again, I don't love either one of those, but it's something that has been happening as of recent. Um, and like I said, there is still some Jaden Ivey news. Looks like that's still out there, so that could influence it. But that would probably be the direction I would go with that, because I don't know what to do with the Dallas front line. They're just whether it's I don't feel good about any of those guys in terms of safe. There's just certain people that again, I don't bet. I bet on money. Those guys ain't money. So that's really all I have for today. Again, just to kind of summarize, again with the NFL, I think the some of the props that I would really be attacking, or I'm going to attack, are really along with like some of the wide receivers from New England, because they're going to have to pass really to be competitive in this game. The Parkers and the Aguilars, even maybe Kendrick Bourne to a lesser degree. And this could be the Gabe Davis game, so be mindful of that. But I really do like Ramondre Stevenson as an overall workload. I think there's a nice floor there, but he definitely has a ceiling, and could be the throw him in with a touchdown on some of your props, because that probably has a decent chance of happening today. So, all right, that's it. The doctor's signing off. Good luck to you guys. We'll talk to you tomorrow.